Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Mystery Sauce, where we delve into the harrowing tales of true crime, paranormal, and the unknown. Well, today I bring you the story of Amber Dawn, a young woman who moves to the small town of Enumclaw, Washington, to start a new chapter in her life. But as she settles into her new apartment, strange occurrences begin to happen, leaving her feeling uneasy and on the edge. From clear footsteps in the attic to missing food and strange noises, Amber can't shake off the feeling that something's not right. As the occurrences escalate, Amber must unravel the truth behind the mysterious happenings in her apartment. Join us as we uncover the mystery of Amber Dawn's case and the unknown predator who terrorizes her in her own home. So Amber Dawn is a young woman who moved to the small town of Enumclaw, Washington. It is located southeast of Seattle and northwest of Mount Rainier, right on the edge of the park. She wants to be closer to her family. The town is known for its rainy climate, and it seemed like the perfect place to start a new chapter in life. Amber moves into a small apartment building. Her apartment was on the top floor, a one-bedroom with a little dining room, a living room and a kitchen, and a little balcony in the front. Amber states that from her bedroom, she can have a full view of Mount Rainier, and it's beautiful. She was 20 years old and excited to start a new chapter in her life. But on her first night in the apartment, she heard something that left her feeling uneasy. As she was unpacking, she had been playing music, but when she went to bed that night, she turned off the music, and as she was laying in her bed, she heard clear footsteps in the attic. She wasn't quite sure what it was, but it did sound like footsteps. Now, the apartment had a crawl space, a little push-up trapdoor in the ceiling that came into her bedroom. So the next day, she goes to her landlord and asks if anyone could be in the attic. But the landlord assures her that it couldn't be anybody up there, and it was probably just a squirrel or a raccoon running around. Now, Amber has an active imagination, and she couldn't shake off the feeling that something wasn't quite right. So as time goes on, Amber started to notice little things in her apartment had been moved. But she would have second-guessed herself and chalk it up to exhaustion. She works 3 jobs. She's working several jobs, and she wasn't home much. So she assumed it was her brother, who had a key to her apartment and would come over and grab a can of soda or something. So as the weeks went on, the feeling that something wasn't right continued to linger on her. So Amber even got a puppy. She got a beautiful German Shepherd mix and started to feel more at home in Enumclaw. But as time went on, she began to notice that her puppy was acting strange, as if it was sensing something that Amber couldn't see. So one night, while she was working as a waitress, she received a call from her landlord saying that her bathroom was flooding. So Amber rushes to her apartment to find that her downstairs neighbor was getting rained on in her bathroom. So Amber went to her apartment to find her bathroom flooded. She immediately opened the door to her bathroom to find the source of the problem. But instead of finding water all over the ground, she found her puppy safe and dry sitting in the bathroom sink. Now, this was strange and unexpected discovery, as there was no way for the puppy to have gotten into the sink on her own. The sink was too high for her to jump into, and the toilet was too far away from the sink for her to climb up. Amber couldn't understand how her puppy had ended up in the sink. It had only added to the feelings that something was off in her apartment. She had already been experiencing strange occurrences, such as the missing food, the strange noises, and other oddities, and this discovery only added to her growing list of concerns. Now, Enumclaw is a small and safe farming town, and Amber tried to remind herself that her brother and sister-in-law were only 3 blocks away from her, so she kept herself busy. So one day, Amber got sick, and she called into work for the first time, and she didn't leave her apartment. She decided to stay in, watch TV, and she's relaxing, when all of a sudden, she heard a loud thump in the bedroom, but she dismissed it as her animals were known to make noise. Later that evening, she went to take a bath, and as she was relaxing in the dark, she looked up and saw that crawl space trapdoor was now open. Amber was terrified, but she kept her composure. So she steps out of the bathtub, put on a robe, and grabbed a hammer from her junk drawer. She knew that the only place the person could be hiding was in the bedroom closet. As she walked past the closet, she could see her reflection in the mirror doors and knew that the person was on the other side of the door. She didn't say anything. She didn't want to scare him, and instead, she quietly just walked to the phone and called her sister-in-law. Amber's sister-in-law advised her to get out of the apartment as soon as possible, and so she grabbed her puppy and walked out the door in a robe with a hammer in one hand and a puppy in the other. Amber went as quietly as she could without alerting the intruder that there was something wrong. Her sister-in-law arrived within a few minutes with her 2 giant German shepherds, and they went to her house and called the police. When the police arrived at the apartment, the person who had been living in the attic was gone. In the attic, the police found a little bit of food, a book, and a sleeping bag. It was unclear how the person was getting into the apartment. But Amber had several theories about how the stranger who had been living in her attic got in. One theory said the stranger could have entered through a window that she left open for her cats. She also believes that he could have taken her spare key and made a copy, or that he could have just lived in the apartment before her and the landlord didn't change the locks. Another possibility is that the stranger had access to the building and was able to enter and exit undetected. It is not clear how the stranger was able to live in the attic for an extended period of time without being noticed, but whatever the case, it is clear that the stranger was able to gain access to the apartment without Amber's knowledge. Amber filed a police report, but the person was never found. She believes it was a man, but there's no way to know for sure. Amber's brother Eric Olsen remembers how nervous she was and scared she was during the whole ordeal, and how relieved she was to get out of there. Shaken by the experience, Amber moved out of the apartment the next day. Years have gone by, but the memory of the event haunts her. Whenever she was home alone, she felt as someone was always watching her. She now lives in a new house in Illinois, with her husband, 2 children, a dog, and 2 birds. She even asked her new landlord to put a lock on the outside of the attic hatch, just to be safe. Unfortunately, her puppy was hit by a car a few years later after the incident. Amber often wondered if her puppy had seen something that night in the attic, but she believes her dog was used to the stranger, so he never really barked. The stranger was never caught, and the police had no idea what the intruder was doing there. Amber does recall that one day, while running errands, Amber saw a man sitting outside her apartment. He was a man in his mid-30s with reddish hair, and he stared at her for longer than was socially acceptable. When she returned home, he was gone. Amber couldn't help but wonder if he knew all about her. So be careful in dark attics and basements, as you never know who might be hiding there. That will do it for today's true story. I really appreciate everyone that tunes in. If you enjoyed today's story, then please hit that subscribe and like button to support the channel and get that notification when I post twice a week. Thanks everybody.